We are back with another episode of Let's Get Uncomfortable. We have the lovely Talor, my special friend. She is going to be speaking on a couple of different things. But, before we even get started, we always got to start with our mindfulness. So, without further ado, it is now time for us to pause, breathe, and relax. It's now time for us to open our mind to be willing to learn about new ways to navigate around healing within this lifetime, to navigate around obstacles that we may face while healing, and to enter a space of no judgment, just giving ourselves grace, aware of anything that may come up, and allow us to enter a space of peace and calmness. All right, y'all. I hope that brought y'all some peace and some calmness, and that gave y'all the openness to be willing to receive everything that we're going to talk about today. Because as y'all know, it always gives me that sense of just that woo-saw, to just return to center. It's just so nice. I love that. That mindfulness is important. I always talk about it, but it really is. But I
Yep.
have my friend Talor, who is going to talk with us about, like I said, a couple of different things. We're going to start with fertility. We're going to start with fertility and the meaning of fertility, what that actually looks like, and how that is beneficial for us to know when we are navigating anything healing of the womb or anything like that. So, Taylor.
Fertility. Yes. Okay. So, fertility. So I like to, I don't know if I told you this, but Talor, from what my dad has told me, he found it in the Bible, and it means dew in the morning. And so
Ooh.
to me, right, fertility has always been watering something. And yes, it is like, of course, like, the physical aspect of fertility, but also fertility in mindset, fertility in spirit, fertility in emotion, and things that make you feel good. So to me, it's not just the physicality of it and,
Oh,
our
yeah.
womb and the womb space, but to me, it means so much more. And it's a beautiful thing. So let me just start off with that.
Yeah. And then, well, we kind of jumped into the whole fertility, but I do want you
Mm-hmm.
to give a little bit of an introduction about what it is that you do, tell your story a little
Yeah.
bit, let us get to know
Yeah.
you before we
Yes.
jump into
Yes,
all the beauty
ma'am.
that is fertility and femininity and everything.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so my name is Talor. Some people call me Taylor, and that's even a funny story of how I found out that my name was actually pronounced Talor. Um, I think I was like, my aunt was told she had named me, and then in reality, my dad named me, and he was like, "No, it's Talor," and I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Why? Why don't I have a Y at all in my name?" So there's
Yeah, yeah.
that. But I am actually a mental health therapist. I am becoming more, I'm introducing myself to the fertility world just because I was diagnosed with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, at the age of 12. And being a mental health therapist as well, I'm a ACSW, which is an associate clinical social worker, who's at the last end to get her LCSW. Thank goodness. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes. Accolades upon accolades. We here
Look,
for it. I am here for it.
I was trying to get multiple different certifications all at once. I don't even know how I do this, y'all. But
Girl.
going through my own life experience of PCOS and being put on birth control from the ages of 14 to now 20 or 24, and I'm 28 turning 29. It's been a very interesting journey. There's so much. But what I'm feeling like talking about today specifically is the journey of how spirituality and fertility has been with me.
Of course.
Luckily, I don't like to tell everybody this, but for the podcast, I was like, I got you. But I'm actually going through the process of um, being initiated into Kemetic traditions, African spirituality practices,
Oh.
specifically Egyptian. But in that journey, recently it's been interesting seeing how we talk about DNA, and I believe it's called epigenetics,
Mm-hmm.
and the beauty of like understanding how, like, where in your family line do you see patterns of pregnancy and birth? So, like, for example,
Mm.
on my dad's side, it's actually been a lot of like June, July of when kids are born.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that around October, November, I believe that's, if I did that math right, October, November, that's when conceiving happens. And so going
Oh.
to the DNA and seeing on both sides, when is your family most fertile? And I was like, wait, what? So,
Yes.
some,
I would have never
yeah,
thought to even go that far. I would have just been like, well, they had the
yeah.
baby this.
Right, right. That was
Okay.
introduced to me. Yeah, so I was like,
Wow.
wait, what? And so somebody that is teaching me of the Kemetic ways
Mm-hmm.
was telling me like think about it like this, and I was like, oh shoot. And I had previously came into um I've been doing just a lot of research on my own family and understanding where I've come from on both sides, and the trauma and the DNA that comes from that, or the DNA that's been, I guess, just
Down and
yes,
generationally. Yeah. Okay.
yes,
I got you.
yes,
I got
when
you.
it comes down to trauma, and really working on letting unreleasing a lot of that. I have a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, and I think on both sides, but in particular, there's a, like, I can cue into my grandmother, my aunt, and then I
Mm-hmm.
believe she has to be like 8 greats, but there's more situations between however many greats, and then my auntie, which is what my dad's sister, just sexual trauma, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying,
And
and
you and I
the
have talked.
depths of
Yeah.
that.
I was saying that you and I
Mhm.
have talked about. We've touched on it a lot in our conversations. We talked
Mhm.
about how uh monumental the impact is when there is like sexual traumas within your family history or things of that
Right.
nature, and how it
Right.
can shape you and shape your journey within yourself, like, and different things like that. So how did that, like, when you first discovered these things and you became aware of this, how did it affect
Mhm.
the journey that you went on after?
Well, I'm still in it.
I know. That's why I'm like, tell me a little bit. Tell us a little
I'm
bit
still
about it,
in
because
it.
I think
Still
it's
in it.
very important. Of course, you're still in it, but I think it's very important to at least acknowledge, like, yes, this
Mhm.
is what I've discovered, and this is what I'm having to constantly navigate through, and here's
Yeah.
how I
Yeah.
do it. And especially when we look at it from the lens of fertility and femininity and the spiritual, like,
Mhm.
I just think that that's beautiful.
Honestly, I've been doing major healing work.
Mhm.
Um, when I first was made aware of, by my spiritual leader, I'll say this, with the DNA and epigenetics and all that stuff, and I had
Yeah.
read a book. I don't remember the name. Wombology. It was Wombology. I don't
Womology.
remember. Yeah, and I don't remember the name of the woman, but I got it off of Amazon, and she broke down, going back to like a genogram, and I had already done a genogram before in grad school because that was one of our
Mhm.
projects. And so I've kind of like, mental health set me up for this like deeper understanding of the roots of my family and the trauma pieces. And then
Mm.
recognizing, because I also was made aware of my mom's side and having like thyroid issues. And so now what I'm doing is actually utilizing Western and trying to introduce Eastern medicine as well and combine the two, because I feel like, especially with like us
Mhm.
and just Black women, when it comes down to birthing and when it comes down to medical issues, Black men and Black
Yeah.
women, we do not like going to the doctor. We don't like trusting people
Oof.
that have, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what I'm going to do is you give me what
Yeah.
I've, give me a little something that I don't know, because there is something that I can learn from the doctor. But I'm going to be
Mhm.
getting my checkups. I'm going to be asking questions. I'm going to be like, I don't like that. You need to work with me. And I'm going to be advocating for myself. But is it tiring? Yeah. But I've learned that this journey is going to be tiring. Why? Because we're trying to get to the highest version of ourselves. And in
Ooh.
comedic traditions, they talk about the unconditioned self. So if I'm trying to be
Mm.
unconditioned in a world that's constantly conditioning me, I'm
Mhm.
gonna F up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna be tired. I'm not always gonna want to be dealing with people, and so I've had to come to realize this is a part of the journey, no matter which way I look at.
Mhm.
And it's healing. It's going to my lineage. It's going through, and if I can't, you know, fully understand it, I remember, girl, I meditated so hard on this, and I was just meditating, like, and it wasn't even, you know, me not listening to spirit and ancestors. It was just like
Yeah.
I was sitting with myself, and I've always been connected to indigenous practices. Come to find out, there's a story in regards to that in my family, but
Mhm.
I have it right next to my bed to this day. I meditated and I saw a vision. I said, I need something to help me with my womb, help me with my stomach, ancestors, whoever you are, because there
Mhm.
is somebody on the other side who has done a lot of root work. And that power and that energy
Mhm.
is still flowing through my dad's side in particular. And it could be my mom's side too, but because of some things that were said, we believe it's my dad's side. And
Mhm.
girl, this whoever it was, she came to me in a dream, in a vision. Um, and I said, I need something. She gave me a recipe to put together. And I love herbs. I
Mm.
love nature. I love all that. I put it together whenever I
Mhm.
massage my stomach with it. And it was about the digestive system and getting it, regulated, because at the end of the day, the root, when we talk about, the health of the womb, the root of health of within our bodies is the stomach, which is right
Yeah.
above the womb. So I
Mhm.
was like, what is going on? Girl, I started putting that stuff on my stomach, and I still got it right there right now. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
and that's what it
You
is.
feel
It's
better? Yeah,
taking,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, meditation. I feel better connecting with my ancestors, honoring my ancestors, honoring
Mhm.
God, spirit, like whatever you believe in, but
Yeah.
going there and just
I think it's
praying.
all cohesive. At
Hmm.
one point, at some point, it all comes to at the end of the day. I think at the center of everything is love, and love for
Exactly.
yourself, and love and growth, and love and just that's just the all encompassing thing right there. But like
Hmm.
I, as you're talking about meditating and stuff, girl, I just meditated last night, but I realized my meditation practices don't have to be the same every time.
No,
Like
it's a
they can
walking
be different.
meditation.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
I was chilling in this chair and I was just like, "Oh, I'm meditating." All of a sudden, I'm meditating right now. I got the sage going. I got the crystals in my hand, and I'm like, I'm not laying down. I'm not fully eyes
Right.
closed and like,
Right.
everything. So I realized that every day it's different. Like you said, it is a walking meditation. It's a walking practice. It's definitely a walking thing where you have to understand that I think just to listeners to give y'all some clarification what we mean by walking, it's more like it doesn't have to look the same every time you do it. There's no set routine, and it
Mm-hmm.
moves as it grows as you grow. So like it's that
Hmm.
walking symbolism of like, okay, we're getting to this
Yep.
place, but now maybe I can meditate in the bathtub for tonight, or maybe I can, it
Hmm.
it adapts as you adapt, right? You adapt around it and you
Exactly.
grow with it. That's what I mean by walking. I ain't want nobody to be like, oh, you just walking and meditating, your eyes is closed.
Right.
No, no,
No.
that's
You
not how
can
to
do
do all
that
that.
though. You
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
but it's more than that too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just wanted to clarify. But I think that is so beautiful that like you can at least acknowledge like, okay, yeah, I got to get to the root of this. I got to figure out what is actually going on and how my
Hmm.
ancestry has affected me and
Hmm.
things like that. So when we're
Yep.
talking about, so you mentioned that you were diagnosed with having PCOS. Can you talk a
Yes,
little bit
ma'am.
about that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I'm gonna start with Dr. Joy, blah, blah.
Mhm.
She has a book called Break the Cycle. And in it,
Okay.
she says, and I love this, I'm going to start with this for a reason.
Okay.
But she says something to the extent of, people don't understand, they'll be like, oh, slavery and all this stuff. It's not, it didn't happen, it would happen 400 years or whatever it was, right?
They try to
But yet,
diminish it. Yes, I got
exactly.
you.
There's 7 generations of trauma and just history. Let's just say history. Take trauma out of
Yeah.
it. There's
Okay.
7 generations,
History.
7 to 8 generations of histories in your body, past lives, right?
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
including your own. So
Yes.
imagine all the history, 7 generations. That was like in the midst of slavery for me, and for you and a lot of us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So PCOS, what I've learned, has been passed down from generation to generation to generation on my mother's side. There's
Mhm.
something biologically there. Mind you, my family has been in the whole Creole shit, bullshit,
Mhm.
light versus dark. You lighten yourself up because, oh, well, let's call it what it is. It was history. It was a survival mechanism, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I have a lot of that on my mom's side. And I recognize there's also a lot of thyroid. There's a lot of different things going on. But PCOS, I've learned, has been passed down on my mom's side.
Mhm.
And what I've learned about PCOS is that it's a metabolic condition. So it's not a root cause. It's just
Mhm.
a series of symptoms that causes hormonal imbalance. For me, I've been learning that there's 4 different types. I don't know all of them, y'all, because I'm
That's
still
okay.
trying to,
That's all right.
I'm
Look,
still
she's
trying to
navigating
learn.
as we learning as we go along. We
Exactly.
don't know. We don't have all the
Exactly.
answers. We just gonna say that right now. But
Exactly.
what we do know, we are gonna
Exactly.
impart on you so that you understand you're not alone in this. Right. To the
I,
listeners that have PCOS, you ain't alone. I
yep.
personally don't have it, but as like I said, Talor, she has taught me a lot when it comes to PCOS, and other family members have too. But I
Yeah.
I have always, I ask you all the time. I'm always like, what does that actually mean, and how does this work? Because I just like to understand. I like to learn,
Right.
so I'm always
Right.
asking
Right.
questions.
And you can't, sometimes people get taught to just be told something and not to challenge it, but there's a beauty in
Oof.
challenging, and especially with
Mhm.
us, because when we challenged, we would get killed. So you see how that's passed down? Girl, it's deep. I swear. I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's why the little white kids, excuse my language, but we about to go here. That's why those little white kids, you see them running around and all this stuff, and they can do whatever they want, and their kids, usually their moms are not, you might get a few in there that are like, get your ass back here or whatever. But overall,
Mhm.
generally, I have seen more white kids being able to run around and some Asian kids being able to run around than brown and black. We're usually, get your ass over here. I said what I said. Shut the fuck up, right? And it's due to a trauma response that's
It
deep in
is.
our
It is.
community.
It is.
Going back to PCOS, because I'll go on a tangent.
Okay. No. No. That I think that ties into it because
hmm
what you're hinting at and what you're touching on is that we have to recondition ourselves, right? We have to
hmm
unlearn the mechanism of no, get your, you can't run freely, but now we're
Right.
unlearning those things, and we're like, no, I
hmm
can run freely, and I can run to knowledge. I can run towards
Exactly.
knowledge. I can run towards
Exactly.
understanding something. I ain't gotta sit down all the time. I see where you're going with
Right.
that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing too to be able to find knowledge, because with PCOS I've learned there's 4 types. So I believe one of
Mhm.
them is inflammation, birth control, or post birth control, insulin resistance, and I don't remember the last one. Um
Mhm.
I'm still trying to figure out what mine would be considered, because it seems like I have more inflammatory, but
Mhm.
and that would mean that I need to decrease the inflammation in my body, right?
Right. Right.
But I'm curious because now I'm learning, well, what's going on with my thyroid? Is there something going on with my thyroid? The reason why I say this is because my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt
Mhm.
all have thyroid issues. Something's going on with my aunts. My grandma and my mom, one's on medication, the other one isn't. But they've all had some thyroid taken out too. So now I'm like, okay, hold on. My aunt is in her late 40s. Was there any presenting symptoms prior to that I can end up getting and check for?
Yeah.
So
Be on the lookout
I'm
for it.
learning a
Yeah.
lot. Exactly. I'm learning a lot. There's so much to PCOS, and it's so unknown. Well, it's becoming more common because 1 in 10, I believe the research is showing right now, women have PCOS. And what's crazy is because I work at a school district, right? I've been able to, I'm an educational social worker from one of the school districts out here in California. And a lot of the Black and Hispanic girls, they'll start showing symptomology of PCOS. And I'm like, hey, I should doctor about PCOS. I should doctor about PCOS. Start telling them about this symptom, this symptom, this symptom. See what they say about PCOS. All of them have come back. You have PCOS. You have PCOS. You have a hormone imbalance. PCOS. I'm like, what the heck?
What?
Why aren't we catching this when these kids are young?
I don't know. What is so just to your point,
Mm-hmm.
can you break down what are some of the symptoms of PCOS?
Yeah. So irregular periods, not menstruating. Sometimes kids will go, let's say, because I believe it's 2 years. How my mom got it with me, or picked it up, symptoms that something was wrong with me, was that for 2 years, so I started at 12 and then 13, 14, I was not regularly consistent. I was having major pains. I had some hairs on my chin.
Yeah. No. I got you.
This area.
I'm
Yeah,
in
I
it.
was like,
What's this? I got you. No, I got you.
and mind you, a lot of the women have mustaches in my family. Crazy. Or just very hairy, oily skin. Let's see, what else? They have to get an ultrasound for cyst, and really what they are is kind of like inflamed. I think of them as like inflamed eggs.
Yeah.
So it's like a
That's
ring
how
of like inflamed
that's
eggs.
how I had come. Yeah, that's how I had like put two and two together. Like one of my family members actually he had, oh my god, I can't even remember what it was. Well, she had a cyst, but it was in her ovary, and I just recall that she like, I was talking with her because I was like, "Are you okay?" Like I was tending to her. I wanted to make sure that she was fine, and she ended up having to get like the surgery and stuff. And she was like, "Yeah," and that's how I first discovered it. That's how I first learned about it within my family. And then my mom, when I was in college, at one point, she was like calling me and telling me that she had an enlarged or inflamed thyroid and something going on with her ovaries as well. She had but I don't know if fibroids is that, does that go along with it, or is that something totally different? There's so much that can happen in the womb. Like
Exactly. Fibroids, I believe, are tumors that are on the like outside or inside of the uterus. But that's, like you said, there's endometriosis, there's fibroids, there's PCOS, there's all these metabolic conditions, right? Or I believe endometriosis is something else. I don't know if you can classify them as all metabolic conditions, so that's
That's
something
what
to
I'm
ask your
saying. Like
doctor.
it's so many different
Yeah,
categories that they all fall under, but the center of it all is that they affect your womb in some way, shape,
exactly.
or form. And that's
Exactly,
why
girl.
it's so important for us to have this knowledge, especially nowadays when knowledge is getting changed in books, knowledge
Mm-hmm.
is getting,
Yep.
diminished in certain areas because they don't want us to know, hey, your womb is pretty vital. Like they don't want us to
Exactly.
understand that. And it's really sad to see that shift happening, but to be aware of it and to, like I said, seek that knowledge, it is what can save you in the long run, because that's how you advocate
Mm-hmm.
for yourself, by having the tools
Exactly.
behind you to say, look, I don't want to be taking that. Here's what we're going to do instead. Is there any way that we can do this without me having to go down this path of, like, how do we prevent surgeries from happening? Like, because
Mm-hmm.
let's say historically your parents have had to get these surgeries, and you don't want to go down that road. So it's better for you to know
Right.
now than to be like, well, I'll just get the surgery. No, there was steps we could have
Exactly.
taken before then. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of us don't, I mean, there's more symptoms. I think FSH, there's like four different hormones: FSH,
Mm-hmm.
LH, progesterone, estrogen.
Progestogen.
Um,
Yeah.
there's testosterone levels. There's the thyroid stimulating
Mm-hmm.
hormone. Yeah. My
Mm-hmm.
goodness. There's a lot of different hormones that and because I have a background in, I'm gonna say this. I have a background with it's called fertility awareness education.
Yeah,
Or
that's
as a
good.
Yeah. But girl, I'm not liking how it's very hard to create something to do that certification. A lot of them, I'm not liking how they show up. A lot of them don't understand that I'm working with women of color. And so historically, there's a different background with some of this stuff. You can't just,
Mm-hmm.
you do have to be very consistent with it. But because a lot of our moms, and
Mm-hmm.
because of a lot of the women, a lot of us are business owners and don't have the time per se. It's a different way of, I have to figure out a way to get the information out there
Mm-hmm.
while being trauma informed and other things like that. Because a lot of the little certifications, it's like, I get so irritated off rip and I'm like, I'm going to create my own shit. Like,
No, I get you because that's why I wanted to have you on because we're talking about something that I don't think that we talk about enough. We're not
hmm
talking about the ways in which our the center of, especially for Black women, we're not talking about those disparities, the health disparities between a white woman and a Black woman, or a Black and brown
yeah.
woman, or we're just not talking about that enough. Like, and I remember, like, I know exactly what you mean because when I was getting my background in women gender studies, I was like, okay,
hmm
cool. I understand that we've gone through some different experiences and things like that, and there's health disparities. But then when I was also in the process of getting my Africana studies certificate, I was learning just how different everything was, and how
hmm
like dangerous it is for a Black woman to be pregnant and to get the proper care because they're like, oh well, you're susceptible to pain. I am terrified. I should not be terrified of having a child because
Yeah.
my voice is not going to be heard. And like, that was one of the reasons
hmm
why I wanted us to have this episode, because it is so vital so that other Black women, Black and brown women, understand that you're not alone in these experiences, and
Yeah.
the education is there, and
hmm
we're going to give it to you in whatever way, shape, and form. We're going to drop
Yeah.
books for you, titles, things like that, because like I
Yeah.
said, it's just very important. So
It
I
is.
get you
It
because I was
is.
mad. I was mad when I was getting that background and that minor, and I was like, learning that in some places they don't give birth control to the developing young girls, or they see it as
hmm
a threat, or oh my gosh, I can't
Birth
remember
control is
exactly.
very
It is.
controversial. What I've learned is that it can be more harmful. It's a band-aid,
Oh
right?
yeah,
It doesn't mean that it can't
for
help in
sure.
certain ways, but it is a band-aid. And so, particularly with Black and brown women, exercise, food, top two priorities. What are you sensitive
Yes.
to that you're eating? I have a gluten sensitivity, and I also no tomatoes, but this goes back to access. I got to go to a naturopathic doctor, and she
Mhm.
tested my hair, and she came back and gave me the results. So no pork, no tomatoes, no gluten. There's a few other things in there, and like, I'm allergic to horses. I love horses. Horses have spiritually been like a connection for me. I can't tell you what it is,
Yeah.
but also that's historical as well. I have cowgirls and
Uh
cowboys,
huh.
black cow women, cowgirls, and cow men, or cowboys.
Yeah, yeah. You got it. You got it. Black cowgirls and Black cowboys. You got it.
Like,
But
they're men
like,
and women though, but you know.
I see what you mean. That is so, like I said, that right there, that statement alone is powerful because
Yeah.
you're putting yourself in charge. Whereas
Yes.
if we're not in charge, if we're not in that, we're not taking the driver's seat, we're like, oh well, yeah, I'll just take this medicine. I'll take this, not knowing the
Yeah.
side effects of it, not knowing
No.
the implications that it can have, or the effect that it can
No.
have on us in the long term. Like,
Exactly. And if
I'm a
I
very
had more,
oh,
oh,
mm-hmm.
go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. If you had more
Oh,
what?
if I had, I was 14 at the time, and if I had
Mm-hmm.
more, if I had this information that I have now, I would have been trying other remedies. I probably would have went more of like a herbalist route, because now what I'm finding is I went the mental health route, which I'm grateful for, but what
Yeah.
I really want is the fertility, the herbal, the, all of that just mixed into one, the spirituality, like, so that I can provide that in the space for us. It's important for
Yeah,
us to
yeah.
have things that we need, and we're just different. Like, how, and it's not a way to be cocky, it's not a way to
Yeah, yeah,
be
yeah. No.
egotistical, but there
Of
is a beauty
course.
about us that we just don't understand. And if we had people in our community not just trying to be a basketball player, there are people who should. LeBron James, I think, is
Mm-hmm.
a perfect example. Kobe was a perfect example of that. But also,
Mm-hmm.
there are some that don't need to necessarily just be shooting for that. Let's shoot for
Mm-hmm.
astronauts. Let's shoot for engineers. Let's shoot for mathematics. The freaking Egyptians were top of the class, and everybody started taking from them.
Yeah.
So
Let's
let's be
raise the bar for ourselves. Yeah,
exactly,
I see exactly what you mean. And you can only raise the bar if you're aware of how far it can go.
exactly,
If you don't
exactly,
know how far the bar can go, and you don't know how to be in control of your health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, how can you ever raise the bar?
exactly. And
And
it's
that's
taken
what
a
they
long
want,
time.
y'all. Let's be real. That is what we're talking about. If there is a lack of knowledge, then nobody can raise that bar and exceed to their highest potential. Nobody can get to their best version of self. Nobody can have good healthy what is the word? Healthy productive lives. I don't know what the word is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
actually
yeah.
thinking of.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
like nobody can have that if they don't know that you actually have access to that. If I limit your access to something, you can't ever know exists. You can't ever
Exactly.
know that exists. You're gonna stay stuck in
Perfect
that place.
example. Barbie.
Mm,
Perfect example. There was I just saw. I remember playing with these damn Barbies, and I
mm-hmm.
was like, or just like top tier women in, media. They were not looking, Pocahontas was not looking like, I mean, she's cool, but, wasn't looking like me. There was Cinderella when Brandy did it and Whitney Houston. I was like, oh my gosh, Cinderella, she
Me
looks
too.
like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the first time I ever saw it. And I'm 95. So it's like, even in 95, it's like, damn, like, now I think there was a black woman. I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. She took the Brat dolls and she took some of the black Barbies and put black hairstyles on them. I love,
Yes, I
I
was
didn't,
seeing that.
you saw that? Girl, I
I
ain't
saw
never done these
so big.
before. Look, I need to send you a picture of these, what is the artist's name? It's a black artist. She has
Uh-huh.
beautiful, beautiful artwork. And is black women with different hair. She got locks, both of them locks. Another one has a beautiful, but it's very earthy tone. I'll send you pictures of them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Send them to me, girl. But I see what you're saying. I definitely I feel like, and that's the thing, like the biggest thing, there's so many different systems of oppression at work, but I'm finding
hmm
that there are so many more.
yep,
I never realized, and I never understood for the longest, up until, like I said, when I was in college, that they want to keep us in the dark about our fertility. They want us keep us in
hmm
the dark about how we can actually find natural remedies for our bodies.
yep,
And
yep.
so that's a really big thing because, especially in America, let's be honest, we don't prioritize health, overall health,
Mm-hmm.
the way other countries do. And I say that as someone who has been out of the country and who
hmm
noticed that, like, when I was out the country in the Caribbean, they had clinics, hospitals, doctors. I mean, everywhere around the street, everywhere around, like everywhere I looked, it was like, oh, I wouldn't have no difficulty finding a doctor. I wouldn't have any difficulty. And it's like, this is a basic need. But in
It
America,
is.
here, it's few and far in between, and we're so rooted in we so rooted in that
Yep.
we're like,
My
oh, I don't need to go
sister.
to the doctor, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you're not in control of your health, then who is?
Exactly. And my sister, she used to be a CNA, and she
Mm-hmm.
left because she said, I can't do this. This is sick care. This is not health care. This is sick care. They purposely
Oh.
try to keep you sick because of, and let me tell you, like even the birth control, right? I believe it was
Mm-hmm.
Margaret. I don't remember the founder of who created it. It was a white woman. If you look
Mm-hmm.
at the history, and Dr. Umar had mentioned this, and I don't,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Umar, I think, is a special kind of person. Like you gotta weed out some of this stuff too, but also you
You
gotta
gotta do
take
that
what
with
feels right
anybody
to you.
nowadays.
You
So
gotta do
yeah,
that. Yes,
yeah.
you gotta do that with anybody. But I was really interested that he said this because he was also talking about education and the
Mm-hmm.
and like special ed and certain things and money, and it goes real deep. But you
Yeah.
gotta know how, in special ed and putting black and brown kids in special ed for money purposes, and really they don't need to be in special ed because it's illegal, but parents don't know it's right. It's a whole thing. I was like, wait, what? It was a whole thing. You gotta watch that. It's counterculture with Nick Cannon, and he
Okay.
had Dr. Umar. Watch that episode. He also had Iyanla Van Zant. To all your followers, watch that shit. We have elders who are trying to teach us. We just have to be listening. And if we don't know, I'm gonna tell you right now, go watch it. It's amazing. But side note, he
Mm-hmm.
was talking about the birth control, and I knew this prior, but forgive me if my memory is a
It's
little
okay.
um so the woman who created birth control, there was an underlining thing where black and brown women, because of, I believe, well, black, let's say black, because of
Mm-hmm.
IQ. So they used
Mm-hmm.
SATs and certain things to test IQ. So when we were not meeting up to their standards, they didn't
Mm-hmm.
want us to procreate. So they
Yeah.
sterilized us, right? And
Yeah.
birth control was a part of that sterilization process.
Yep.
And now when you look at it, a lot of the stats when it comes back to black women in particular, we have a lot of abortions, and we're
Mm-hmm.
sterilizing a lot of well, I don't necessarily, my belief system as where they are as far as be considered a
Yeah,
child
yeah,
or
yeah.
not is a little different, but I
Mm-hmm.
definitely believe a spirit is involved. So that spirit is there in the
Mm-hmm.
womb, and maybe it was time to come out because you weren't ready or whatever. It wasn't whatever. What do you call it? How did Iyanla say it? She said it's all, whatever contract you had with that spirit. It may not have been time for
Been
that in
binded.
that moment.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes, which is cool. So it could have been that as it's supposed to be. But it is
Mm-hmm.
very interesting that a lot of people don't know. This is why I say America, period. You cannot be in America without undertones of racism. You can't. From education, from access. It's all about access. When you look at healthcare, when you look at birth control, when you look at freaking reading, when you look at education in itself, the whole system, it gets very frustrating, but that means you don't have access. I recognize getting a master's and now wanting to get another master's, but in the sense of herbal education and becoming a registered
Mm-hmm.
herbalist, I'm still a part
Yeah.
of that process, which becomes frustrating, right? Because you're in a weird state. But
Like
even with
you're in a
understanding
weird, yeah.
dichotomy, maybe that's the
Yeah,
best
that's what I
word
was
to
about to
use. I
say.
don't.
I was about to say
Yeah,
dichotomy. Yep.
I was like, what you about to use? You're right. Okay, we're on the
So
same
I was
page. Yeah,
like,
it's a weird dichotomy.
yeah, yeah.
It's one of
But
those
I see
weird
what you,
things.
it is very weird because, and then, I, you personally already know how I feel about medicine and everything.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
to the listeners, I don't like medicine. I'm gonna be real. I don't like medicine, and here's why. Because medicine for me played a part in my childhood upbringing and in
Mm-hmm.
wrangling me in control. It was a form of control for me, and at least that's how I viewed it. Maybe they don't view it that way. That's cool, but that's how I view it. So when I'm in pain, I will use, every now and then I'll take something, but I'm the type of person that's like, look, I want to figure out a different way. I'm more of a herbalist. I'll drink some tea. I'm more of a holistic individual like person.
Mm-hmm.
So every now and then I will take medicine, but when it comes to any type of medication that I do put in my body, I have to make sure what are the side effects? what is it? What am I supposed to feel when I'm on it? How is it going to affect me in the long run? And is it okay for me to be flexible with this? You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
I think that when it comes to especially Western medicine, we have to be careful with looking at what it is that we are injecting in our bodies. We have to be careful with what it is that we are, like I said, having control over or allowing others to have
Hmm.
control over with us. Because,
Yeah.
like you said, going back to the whole birth control, we talked about the history of birth control. Obviously, when you get your minor in women's gender studies, you take certain classes. And I took that course and I was reading so much that I was crying. I was like, there's no way that this is legal. There's no way that this is okay. Simply because another system of oppression at work is we don't want y'all to procreate. We don't want y'all to reproduce. We want there to be more of a racial disparity here. And we want to keep that so that we have the power. It's all about power at the end of the day. And knowledge is power. If y'all ain't picked up on that since I've said it, knowledge is power. So if you don't have that knowledge, you don't have that power. You don't have that strength. I can't take something away from you that you don't already have.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
If
Yep.
it hasn't if it hasn't formed, I can't break. It's a lot easier to break you down when you don't have it in place yet, when you don't even know that it exists.
Exactly.
Especially
Exactly.
in American lenses, the eyes. That gaze is definitely a lot of. I mean, I will say that there's a lot of progressiveness from
Hmm.
the new generation coming up and from my generation and some other generations, but that's very small few compared to who it should be. It should be all of us being on this
Hmm.
equilibrium almost of wanting to
Exactly.
know what is going on around us and as far as how we take control of our health. But so
Mm-hmm.
many of us are stuck in that mindset of like, it ain't gonna get no better. That even when we're presenting an option of, hey, here's a better solution, I don't trust it. I'm mistrusting of that for a reason though. We gotta That's where the conditioning and unlearning comes in
Hmm.
for real. Because if it doesn't
Yeah,
happen,
you have to want
you stay
to do
stuck.
better. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a delicate dance. It wasn't until I
It
recognized, you
is.
know what, ain't nobody got me like me. So if I got me, what kind of person do I want to be? I want to be somebody that challenges, of course. I want to be somebody that, of course,
Mm-hmm.
can sit back and relax too. I don't want to be in this. I hate that it says I hate this new. Everybody hopped on the bandwagon of like masculine and feminine, right? But to me, that's whole. That's balanced. That's yin and
That's what
yang.
I'm saying.
Like
You have to have a feminine with your masculine. You have to have a masculine with your feminine. It is
exactly.
balanced. And we talk about that all the
Everybody
time.
has
And
to
that's
have that.
where, yes. But however, I will say that, not however, but I guess in tandem, I will say
Hmm.
that Black and brown women have the natural tendency, if they have come from, and I'm going to say this, if they have come from a historical, dysfunctional, or traumatic background, or have
Hmm.
had these
Hmm.
adverse experiences that cause them to have their masculine more presenting, it is a lot harder for them to find their femininity and be soft around those that have challenged that and brought out that masculinity. I will say that. And that's why when we're talking about fertility as a whole and just like what that looks like on the spectrum, and we're talking about the beauty of being feminine, there is also beauty in being masculine, because in that masculine you
Yes,
advocating for yourself, in that feminine
exactly.
you're taking care, you're being nurturing towards yourself. But I'm gonna ask this question to the listeners, and I want y'all to think about this. If you guys already know that there has to be a balance, why are we shying away from it when it
Mm.
comes to our
Ooh.
mental health, when it comes to our
Ooh.
emotional health, when it comes to our physical health? If there
Oh,
has
you
to
did
be a
it.
balance, why are we shying away from it? And I'm gonna leave it at that. Let y'all think on that.
Girl.
And if you have an answer, if you got an answer, girl, I'm here for it. But I was just thinking, like, why are we pushing and pulling if we need to be in connection? We need to be in unison.
Well, think about it though. You just said it. We've been talking about it this whole time. It's about survival. And think about, like, also when you come down to mental health too,
Yeah.
if you're used to chaos, you're gonna be in chaos. The one thing that I really
That's
actually
true.
I found this very interesting when they talk about black and brown people and gang violence and all this shit and why are people
Mm-hmm.
so violent and this stereotypical thing, right, with us. I'd be like, well,
Yeah.
why are you upset when we've been taught that? That's how this is in our
That's
DNA
what
at
I'm
this point,
saying. That
right?
exactly.
It's in us at this point, but
It's
it's in
rooted. It's
everybody.
rooted in us. Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
rooted in us, but it's to answer the
Mm-hmm.
question is when you are used to that type of chaos, right? That is chaos for us. It's
Mm-hmm.
not understanding who we are. It's not. They did a great job. They did a
Yeah.
great job in how in having us not understand who we are
Oh yeah.
and having us disconnect from our natural root of things. So when you look at survival and stuff, we're just trying to survive in a world that was never made for us. It was made in the destruction of us. How can we survive in something that was made to constantly destroy us? It takes
Mm-hmm.
a whole village of people to be aware of something and to turn it. It's not just a black issue at this point. It's
Oh
white
yeah. Of
folks
course.
wanting to let go. It's Latino people coming over here and recognizing, oh shit, like this was not what I thought about. Now I understand what black people in America be talking about. I was like,
Yeah.
sometimes it takes people to sit down and understand and all of that. So
Yeah. But that awareness has to come. Like I see exactly what you're saying. The needle can't move unless we do it collectively. And like I said, that's why I
exactly.
said education is so powerful, y'all. Like I know we have talked
Mm-hmm.
about a lot of different things regarding our health, but I don't want anyone to ever think like, oh, they're talking about so many different things. No. It all goes together. It all flows together. Everything that we have touched on. No, it does. It all comes back to the root issue of like, well, how do we take care of our womb if we've been in, and not just our womb in a definitive stance, but from that spectrum level again of if we've come from these things, how do we take care of it now? If we're trying to unlearn, how do we navigate around that? Like you said, connect with your ancestors, do some grounding. There's many different ways to start this walk, but there's beauty in starting. If you're listening to this,
Exactly.
you're starting your walk. I'm just gonna let you know that now. Like this is like, because I promise you, after these conversations come about, you're wanting to know more, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where their beauty lies. That's where the healing lies. That's where the change
Yep.
starts to happen because you're like, oh my god, I need to know more. How did I not know that? Like the
Mm-hmm.
facts that we dropped, they're facts. They are facts. It's not something that like like I said, we both have a background in this. So use that to your advantage. Do your research and you will find your way, especially if you are navigating how to deal with, metabolic dysfunction or dysfunctional metabolic symptoms
Yeah.
or things like that. The education and the knowledge is out there. You just have to be willing to find it.
Yeah, yeah, and don't be afraid to we kind of put pressure on
Oh yeah.
ourselves in ways that I
Go
think a lot of
slow.
people don't understand. Yeah, it's this has taken years for me. It started in grad school in undergrad for
Mhm.
me when I was doing peer education. And I was like, I don't know what I like psychology, and then went into the social worker route because I don't like to be tied down. So it's
Mhm.
like, you know, and I'm still
Oh
learning.
yeah,
Like
happy
it's a
social
whole
worker month, by
process.
the way.
Oh,
Sorry.
thank you, ma'am.
Happy
I was
Happy Social
I
Worker
love
Month.
seeing Ludacris. Thank you. I love seeing Ludacris saying happy social work. I was like, hey, we got Ludacris. Okay.
What? I didn't see that. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to say
Yeah.
that. I'm like, oh yeah, she
No.
is a social worker. Yes, we are. We appreciate the work that you are doing. We really do.
Thank
It's
you.
necessary.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, it's a lot. It's a lot. And being a mental health therapist as well, working two jobs, it's a lot. I'm trying to move forward from this stage of my life to really focus on and harness the PCOS symptoms, studying herbalism and getting into the
Mhm.
fertility stuff. Because I know it's around that time. But if your followers want to follow me, I will say this. My account
Mhm.
is not as active because I've been focusing on getting my hours. So I'm hoping to take the test actually
That's
soon.
okay.
But if your followers
Good.
do want to follow me, they can follow me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
You're
girl.
welcome.
They can follow me at the fertility doula, and it is the fertility, and then doula is DEWLA for my name. I think dew is the most important substance, water, and then it goes deep, girl. Talking about being a Cancer, water, and all this stuff. It's a whole nother talk about spiritual. We're gonna have a part 2, okay?
Yeah, we could talk about the spiritual meaning of words and like the power of words. I would love to do that with you. Since we
That's
always
beautiful.
break down words and we always, but I love that. I love that. I'm just saying, y'all, like I think that this has been an incredible episode, and I really hope that it gives y'all insight on how to navigate around Black and brown fertility in America. But not just, the whole spectrum of what we talked about. Y'all, if y'all listen, y'all listen. But this has been Queen J with, I don't even know what episode we at. It don't matter. We with another
It was like
episode
4.
of.
Oh, is it? I went on your thing and I thought it was 4, but hey,
Oh no,
cool.
we are at this is 33, maybe.
Shut up. I'm so proud. I am so proud of you. Oh my gosh. I'm like, this is what I need in my life. I need these Black
Yeah,
women that are like doing their business stuff
33.
because
Mm-hmm.
once I'm ready, y'all, it's gonna be
You are
spinning.
episode 33. Wow, that's crazy. You are episode 33. Let me sit in
Hey,
that.
hey, oh, Ashe, oh, 33, let's go.
You. Oh my God. Yeah. No, because I was looking at it and I was like, oh, I kept saying I was at 25. I'm like, no, I've definitely recorded way more than that. But yeah, we are season 2, episode 33. Total of season 2, yeah. But I am so glad to have had you on for the second time, because the first one that was in 2021. My goodness.
I
Yeah.
have been so out of it, y'all. Okay.
That
Oh
is
my God.
okay. Wow.
Girl.
We got it. You gonna be a third guest. You gonna be a three-peat. You gonna be a three-peat. But no,
33
this
on
has
3.
been 33 all 3. Oh Lord, we got all the threes. The powerful number. All right, listen, we just talked about a lot. But this has been Queen J with Let's Get Uncomfortable with my lovely and amazing friend Talor. If y'all want to follow her, she already gave y'all the handle. I'm gonna have the rest of her stuff in the episode description. But again, thank you for seeing and hearing me. Mwah. I love y'all. Bye.